This happened almost 25 years ago, way before cell phones were a thing. I was 17, and my brother was 13 at the time. The both of us were traveling in northern British Columbia in mid-November. At this time of year, darkness in the mountains was pretty much guaranteed. We were in the Pine Pass, between Chetwynd and Prince George, BC. Anyone who knows this area knows how desolate it is. I'm talking hundreds of kilometers of snow and trees between gas stations and any kind of people or buildings. We were just about at the Powder King Ski Resort turnoff, and it was getting late. We pulled into a roadside turnout around 10 to 10:30 p.m. because I was super tired. My brother was already sleeping. I figured it'd be best to rest up for a bit to get some energy for the rest of the drive. That being said, it didn't take long for that rush of energy to come. I pulled in and parked near some tourist signage, locked my doors, and kept the car on so we stayed warm. Thank God I did this. Eventually, I put my seat back and went to sleep. I was completely out cold when something snapped me awake. To this day, I'm not sure what it was that woke me up. I was looking around, trying to figure out what was happening in my groggy state, when all of a sudden, my car was surrounded by 4 or 5 men. They started yanking on the door handles, trying to get in the car.
Open the fucking door!
I'm not sure if they saw I was awake or not, but I sat up and slammed the car in drive and peeled out of there. I'm not sure if I hit one of them or not, and I didn't care to check. I hardly remember what my brother did during that time because of the adrenaline, but I didn't stop the car until we reached my auntie's house in Prince George. This was one of the most terrifying times in my life. So, to the 4 or 5 men in the Pine Pass who tried to break into a car with 2 kids who were napping, I hope I ran at least one of your feet over. This happened to my parents about 20 years ago now. Both of them were driving out to Death Valley, an ominous name I know, to spend some time at the hotel for a weekend during the wintertime. They had left late in the day and were going to arrive at the hotel at night. The hotel itself was about 30 minutes outside of the actual Death Valley town center, and when they finally found the place, it was completely abandoned. My mom got spooked easily and didn't want to go and look, but my dad's into that sort of shit and got out of the car. Right after he walks around the back of the building to look around, a man approaches my mother at her side of the car. He claims his motorcycle broke down and that he delivers newspapers to Death Valley. My mom looks around, sees no motorcycle anywhere. Not to mention that this hotel had nothing near it, not one building. This guy was begging my mom to come get the newspapers and take them to a hotel in town. Otherwise, he'd lose his job. He had the stack of newspapers in his hands and wanted her to open the door so he can give them to her. My mom's getting serious weird vibes from this guy now and refuses, locks all the doors, and tells him to go away. He continues to beg. Finally, my dad comes around the corner and sees the commotion that was going on. The guy panics a bit and just hands them over to my dad quickly and leaves. My mom and dad drive off, and they spot the guy walking into the snowy desert. They finally get to the hotel and end up booking a room there. Out of curiosity, my parents also brought the newspapers too. When they handed over the newspapers, the lady at the desk told them that they don't get any newspapers delivered to the hotel. My parents opened the stack of papers and looked at the front page. It's a newspaper from 1954. To this day, we have no idea who that man was, why he had newspapers from 1954, and how come he insisted that my parents deliver them to the hotel. One time, I was in Canada on a snowboarding trip at Panorama with some friends. We decided to go out for a drive along a bunch of trees. If I'm being completely honest, A big part of the reason for that was for us to smoke some weed. It was probably the middle of the night, so you'd think it'd be pretty dark. But the moon was really bright that time, so we could see fairly well. There's no one on the road that we've seen, until we come around a bend. In the middle of the road was something. It looked like maybe a small log or possibly a dead animal. As we got closer, it became clear that it was a fucking person, laying on its back in the middle of a snowy, narrow road in the middle of the fucking woods. Mind you, this is the first sign of human life we had just seen in the last hour of driving around. No vehicle or four-wheeler around, nothing, just the body. Everyone in the pickup starts to panic and yell about what to do. Ultimately, we quickly agree to drive past it and then turn down another road that will take us back in the direction of our cabin. The driver of the pickup called the police on our way back and gave them the location of a possible injured person. I know we might sound like a bunch of douchebags leaving the body there, but something seemed off about the situation entirely. After we got back to the cabin, the police called back asking for more information on where we saw the body. This was because the cops went to the location we told them to investigate, but they found nothing. Even during the next day, nothing came of their search. There was nobody anywhere down that whole road that they could see. There were 4 of us in the pickup. We all saw the same thing. There's no way we all imagined it. Looking back on it, I've always wondered if it was some kind of bait, like there was a trap or ambush set up by people waiting in the trees or something. Either way, it was creepy as fuck.